I want to talk today about what Gurdjieff or Ouspensky called the chief feature. I know I've spoken a little bit about this before, but basically what he's saying is, and this is what I like about this is, you know, it's no good me talking about Gurdjieff or an Ouspensky, and the book is called The Fourth Way, if you get a chance to read it. It's not an easy book to read, but it's a beautiful book, but it's a difficult book to read because it's jarring and it's honest. But he talks about the chief feature, and the reason I'm talking about this is not because I want to follow everybody's way and all the rest of it. I'm just recognising that it's very true from my own experience. My own experience has shown me that my greatest potential lies in my greatest fear, and the distance between me and my worst enemy, or me and my biggest fear, is the same distance as between me and God. So what separates me from man is what separates me from God. So if you imagine that we as we said before, we've got a vast amount of light, infinite amount of light coming through us, and we're like a film, and this light hits us and hits our cognition and our perception and jumps out onto the screen of our reality. So our reality is determined by what's on the film, by what's on the cognition. So if you imagine that, Huxley called this the door of perception, or the doors of perception. He said we need to cleanse the doors of perception. So if we've got negative cognition on there, when this light hits us, it hits our the screen of our reality. So we can change our reality by changing our cognition. So what I recognise is that if I've got someone over here that I see as an enemy, in other words, I've got fear, or if I see something over here that I'm separated from money, or I'm separated from health, or I'm separated from relationship, then what separates me from that, the feelings, the fears, you know, that I have between me and that object, are the same things that stand between me and God, because it's on the screen. So what is on the screen blocks the inlet of the light, and it blocks the outlet of light. It blocks our access to man and to potential. It blocks our access to God, because it's a piece of shit on the screen. So this is one of the most exciting revelations I've had in a long time, that what separates us from man is what separates us from God. What separates us from man is what separates us from our greatest potential. So what separates us on the outside is just an indication of what separates us on the inside and from our greatest potential. So what I started to realise was it wasn't about the object and the subject. It wasn't about me and what you know. So if I had a person in front of me and he was my enemy, or I felt he's my enemy, I'm not really interested in him or me as a personality. I'm interested in the feeling that separates us, the feeling of fear, the feeling of repulsion, the fear of envy, the fear of jealousy, the fear of confusion. It's all the same, they're all fear. So what separates me from me and that person is the same thing that separates me from me and my potential. So I don't concentrate on him, I just concentrate on the feeling. I observe the feeling, I sit in the feeling, I marinate in the feeling. I sit in the feeling without judging it. I sit in the feeling without trying to move it or change it. I just sit in the feeling. When I sit in the feeling, and the feeling will challenge, it will come up to be fed, and it will feel at times terrifying and overwhelming. But if I can sit in it and observe it, that will feed my observer, that will feed my authentic self, and it will cleanse the doors of perception. So when I wrote my play Fragile, that was me recognising that I got shame, anger, fear, judgment, rage, masses of rage, all on my cognition, and that was projecting out into the world as a personality. I was projecting out into the world as insecurities, and it was projecting out into the world as my reality. So when I wrote the play Fragile, that was my version of taking that cognition, taking that ignorance or that lie, because it was just a lie. All fear doesn't exist. It's just a lie. It's just a belief. I take that belief and I place it into a play, and I bring it to light. Then I put it on stage and I watch it acted, and I'm able to observe that without judgment and convert it. So I'm able to cleanse the doors of perception by bringing it to light, if that makes sense. So the things I'm most afraid of, I bring to light. When I bring them to light, the doors of perception are cleansed. So what separates me from money, what separates me from wealth or fame or success or achievement or anything I want to experience. What separates me from the people I love, what separates me from the people I hate, is what separates me from my greatest potential. So when I forgive somebody who's done something hideous, I recognise that I'm not really forgiving him, I'm just cleaning him off my perception. It's nothing to do with him, it's done nothing to me. It's just my perception and my belief. I'm able to cleanse that from my film. When I cleanse it from my film, I get greater access to light. So that's what's inspired me more than anything to challenge my old perceptions, is that the closer I am to man, the closer I am to God. The closer I am to my potential, the closer I am to God. And every single situation that comes up in my life that challenges me, every single situation that I feel challenged by and that I feel afraid of, is my chance to get closer to God, to get closer to my own potential or to my own light. So I don't look at someone and think, I'm going to forgive this person, I'm letting them off. I literally just, all I'm doing is I'm recognising that my feelings about them are a perception, they are a belief. And if I can cleanse that belief and that perception, they no longer exist. They certainly don't exist as an enemy. As someone said to me recently, he was talking about fundamentalists and saying they are enemies. And he was talking specifically about Muslims. And I said, I live next door to 3 Muslim families. I said, they're beautiful. I said, I live opposite a Sikh family. I said, they're the most amazing people. And on my left is a Catholic family, and I said, they're amazing people. I said, there are Protestants in my street, there are atheists in my street. I said, there is no enemies in my life. Enemies are just perceptions, they're just beliefs. And if they block you from man, they block you from God. I have no doubt about that at all. So my purpose for challenging these things and dissolving them is that it brings me closer to my own potential. And it's difficult because, you know, I say my bigger self wants to move forward and wants to transform reality, but I've got smaller parts of me that are terrified of that, they're afraid of that, and they will do everything to sabotage me and stop me from doing that, same as everybody else. So what Geoff called the chief feature is what I call the darkest point. We are able to access our greatest light at our darkest point. So if we have an enemy here and he is our mortal enemy, the separation between me and my enemy is the same distance as the separation between me and my biggest potential, between me and God. So if I want to get closer to my potential, I need to get closer to my enemy. Not by going and sitting and having tea with him necessarily, just by observing the feelings. Observing the feelings between me and him, and dissolving the feelings by observing them. By observing them, dissolving them, recognising them as a potential, I'm able to completely convert those feelings. So that perception is no longer a perception of hate, and it just dissolves. The nature of my fear is liberated, and the effulgence, the energy that's left in the fear, will come and form a bigger shield around my conduit. In other words, it will give me more access to more potential, and it's literal. It's literal. So if you've got enemies in your life, or you think you've got enemies, that's, you know, that's the place to look. But trying to find your chief feature or your darkest point, because your darkest point is connected to so many other things. So for instance, for me, my darkest point was massive insecurity. I was violent because I was insecure. I was abusive because I was insecure. I talked too much because I was insecure. I got lots of qualifications in everything I could because I was so insecure. Everything I did, I wanted to get a certificate. I was so insecure. And I was insecure because at the age of 12, I was told that the world could not be trusted by someone that abused me. That was my chief feature. My greatest fear was that no one could be trusted. If I'm able to challenge that and dissolve that and see that just as faulty cognition, if I can look at that and see it just as faulty cognition and dissolve it, dozens and dozens of other fears will dissolve with it, because they're all under the dominion of our chief feature. I've got a feeling I'm running out of time with this, so all I'm going to say is look for the chief feature. Look for the thing that you're afraid of most. Look for your greatest fault is your greatest potential. Mine was insecurity, because I didn't believe the world could be trusted. What's yours?